Okay, this is the Groveland Town Planning Board, Recreation Board meeting, 7/31/24. I'm Vice Chair Patrick Molina, and Acting Chair, while Steve Baker, Chair, is going to join us by Zoom.
I am here.
We hear you, we can't see you.
Sorry, my camera's not on.
There you are.
Hi.
Can you turn Steve up? He's a little quiet.
I just did a little bit, if you can speak again. Hey Steve, can you give me a little sound check for me?
Sure, testing 1, 2, 3.
You should be higher.
All right, that's great. Thanks so much, Steve.
Excellent.
All right, so it looks like we have quorum, just. And we will go ahead with the agenda. Let me just pull it up. Bear with me one moment. The first item on the board is the approval of minutes. We started at 7:33 p.m. today. I guess I moved to open the meeting.
I second.
I approve.
Okay, sounds like unanimous, so we're opened. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Has anyone seen a draft of the minutes?
I do not believe we have a draft of the minutes from the last meeting, but I believe Amanda is working on those and will provide them at our next meeting.
All right, so we will push that over to the next meeting. Do we move to approve push the approval of the meeting minutes to the next meeting?
I'll make a motion to table approving the minutes of the last meeting until the next meeting.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Approval of minutes for the last meeting will be tabled until the next meeting. The next item on the agenda is, and I see it looks like we have Joe Gill with us.
I'm here.
By Zoom. Why don't we talk about the recreation or the summer camp program right now while we've got him, and
Sure.
and handle that issue right now.
Sounds
Does that
good.
make sense?
So, yeah, I'll make a motion to take the agenda out of order and discuss the Groveland Recreation Camp now, since Joe's on.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous, yes, including Joe.
Are you guys going to expect any visitors during the swap or not?
Well, we've only got one via Zoom, and I don't know if we have anyone else planned to come. So I mean, it's an open meeting, so I would leave it open.
Okay, I'll tell them to lock it. You don't have to.
What's up?
You don't have keys.
No, I do not. Okay, so back to the summer camp. We've got Joe Gill with us by Zoom. Do you want to just give a brief summary of how's it going?
Yeah, I think it's going well. I mean, the major focus this year was strengthening in-house. So we brought a lot of specialists in. Last week we had Talent Show Week, which was probably the best week I've seen so far. We've had Curious Creatures, we have yoga coming in, we've had a magician, and then, the regular day-to-day arts and crafts, sports, are going on throughout the day.
How's it been with the heat wave? I know that's got to have been a challenge.
Yeah, and that's definitely, so, the building is a little bit hot. And legally, we're not allowed to go outside with a certain index or temperature, so that has created some hurdles. But as a whole, the staff have done a pretty good job adjusting and preparing for that.
What are some of the things that you've experienced that either you didn't expect or something? This is your first year on. What's your experience been so far?
I'm enjoying it so far. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anything I've done this long enough where I kind of know the ins and outs and what I'm gonna hear about and all that stuff. So I don't think anything's really caught me off guard, per se.
If you were planning for next year, what sort of changes would you be making, if any?
Probably bringing some field trips back. I think that I wanted to get in and kind of see what the camp was going to look like. But it seems like that's kind of a popular thing that was there before. I'm going to look at everything and try to figure out a way that we can maybe implement 3 or 4 field trips throughout the summer.
What's the membership, like how many students do you have and
So
versus
there's
staff versus staff?
Yeah, there's like, I would say 70 to 90 kids a week, depending on the week. Like July 4th week, we had like 20 kids, right? So, and I have about 20 staff. I overhired a little bit because people call out, people go on vacations, and you can't just get an average person to come in to work with the kids. So I'd rather be a little overstaffed than understaffed.
Sure. Do you have any questions?
What age ranges are you seeing for the summer camp?
It's K through 8, but then the CITs are like 7 and up till 13 years old, till we get to 14.
Is it pretty straight, like across the board, like distributed by grades, or is there a higher percentage of, particular grade, or younger kids, older kids more? What are you seeing that way?
I have to look at it more
Sure.
extensively. I would say the kids entering 3rd grade are, if I was to guess, I would say 1 to 3, 1st grade to 3rd grade in that range are probably the bulk of the kids, maybe K through 3. But I don't quote me on that because I'd have to go back and look. And we did it by, the groups are by age, not by grade.
No, and don't take any of this as like some sort of inquisition or anything like that.
Oh, no.
We're just
time.
trying to get some info and kind of get a sense. It's not, you're not in trouble. There's no problem here. We're just trying
That
to
would be
learn a
very
little bit about what's
strange
going on.
if I got on this call and I was in trouble.
I can also report as a member of the town that my daughter, who is going into 1st grade, is having a great time and enjoys her time there. So
Great.
At least I have one data point.
Right. Perfect. I love that. Go ahead.
This is Steve Baker. I'm remote.
Nice to meet you.
You as well. I know we've exchanged some emails. I just wanted to ask kind of 2 questions. I certainly appreciate all the info in regards to, enrollment and kind of, how things are going this year. Along those lines, I know one of the things that came up at our meeting when we've talked about the recreation camp in the past, and I think it came up earlier this year too, was, do you have any plans kind of as we get later into the summer, or have you already maybe thought about, ways to solicit feedback in terms of, I don't know if you have any plans to do like an end of year survey, or if you've just kind of been soliciting feedback from, parents and stuff like that as the summer has progressed. But kind of what are your thoughts on that in terms of, getting that feedback to look at, improving or growing the program in the future? I don't want to say because I don't know. I think it sounds like everything is going well, but just as you look at what future years might look like.
Yeah, I think that a survey is a great idea. I definitely have an open door policy, which I welcome anyone to talk to me about any issues they're having or any feedback. So, but I think a survey would do well. I think what's also going to help is not having a gap. Like, I didn't get started till January, right? So I think promoting this starting in September will increase the numbers a lot.
Gotcha.
Because I think a lot of people didn't know if the camp was even happening, and they had to make a choice by January.
Right.
So, but I think that without even doing a survey, I do know that some families want some more bulk. So, and I think the field trips is a good, maybe making it optional type thing where we can have an on-site camp and maybe go off-site once a week or something like that. But, I've done this long enough to know that feedback is great. So,
Yeah, and I guess on the topic of, bringing back field trips and things like that, and by the way, full transparency, my kids have gone in the past, but because there was some uncertainty this year, they're not there this year, right? So totally understand that sentiment of, the late start and, folks having to make a decision. So totally understand that. In terms of bringing back field trips and things of that nature, I know there was some discussion at one point, maybe in the spring or even late winter around, are there plans to maybe try to do that in collaboration with, a camp in another town nearby or anything like that? Have you had any discussions about that, or has there been any conversations along those lines? Like kind of combining for field trips and things of that nature? Oh, I think we lost him.
Got this back.
Looks like Joe may have dropped off. We'll give him just a minute. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we have you.
Okay, well, he dropped off the Zoom, so hopefully he'll be back on in a minute.
Do you want to, in the meantime, move on to some of the other issues?
Let's give him 30 seconds or so. Well, you're the acting chair tonight, so you can decide.
No, it's fine. I'm a benevolent chair that hears his co-members. We're happy to wait.
Yeah, maybe let's see if, could just be a quick 30-second blip, but if not, maybe we can come. He hasn't rejoined yet, so. Technology sometimes derails the conversation, right? It doesn't look like he's come back on yet, so.
You want to table the summer camp discussion and lesson until he comes back?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Should I move to table it until Joe Gill comes back?
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. So let's go to Groveland Day table.
Technically, I think just a quick point of order, I guess. If we're gonna vote on anything, because there's folks remote, I think we have to do a roll call vote. So just if we have to vote on anything going forward, everyone has to say their name and yes or no.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that at the beginning.
All right. So should we discuss Groveland Day table discussion and planning?
That sounds like a plan to me.
All right. I can tell you I know very little about this, so I'd love to hear from anyone else that has some info.
Yeah, so we had a discussion at our last meeting about potentially having a table at Groveland Day. I did reach out to the Groveland Day committee, and they were supportive of that. I also spoke with the town administrator, just to make sure that if we were to put something together, there wouldn't be any overlap, because the town typically has a table at Groveland Day too, but we kind of determined that it didn't seem like there'd be much overlap between the town having a presence and the recreation committee having a presence. Some thoughts, and I guess I'll put these out there for discussion. There's a few things we need to talk about. In terms of what we could do with the table, I thought I received a copy of some of the updated trail maps that the town planner had or has. So I thought maybe we could, get some of those printed out potentially. I thought it might be good to and this is where, I think the discussion is warranted. I thought maybe based on the conversation we had with the community preservation chair a few weeks ago, we could have some sort of either sign-up sheet or maybe a QR code that went to like a sign-up genie where folks could sign up to help with trail cleanup in the spring. We could also, put together something along those same lines, put together something soliciting info on, different recreation activities or projects that folks in the community might be interested in, and kind of they could either drop it in, a suggestion box type of thing, or again, we could do something with a QR code where they could scan it and just go enter a quick bit of feedback. So I thought that would, I think that's worth us discussing and obviously open to other ideas too, right? I mean, I think it's a space, it's a good event. A lot of people go to it. Obviously, it's very, very well attended. So it's an opportunity for us to get information out there and also kind of, solicit volunteers and things like that for some of the things we know are coming in the future.
I mean, it sounds like a great idea, as far as I'm concerned. The trail map visibility is, a good idea and all that stuff. Oh, looks like we've got Joe back.
Sorry about that. One of the other issues is that the computer that I have, no, I'm just kidding. No, the computer shut off. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So what were you saying, Steve?
Yeah, Patrick, let's go back to Groveland Day in just a minute. So Joe, I was just asking, I know there was some conversation at one point earlier in the year about, if field trips were to come back in the future, maybe combining efforts with some other towns to facilitate those field trips. I don't know if you've had any discussions about that or if there's been any conversations, but I thought I would just ask what your thoughts are kind of on that, and if it's going to work.
I think I'm open to anything. I have not had that specific conversation. I think it's a good idea. I think my approach is at the end of the year, see process what happened, process what we went through, and adapt and adjust. So that's kind of my approach.
Okay. And then not to monopolize the time, but just two other questions from me.
Sure.
Outside of the heat, right, which obviously has been an issue, have there any other, what are your top kind of two challenges that you have had this year that you are looking to address? Aside, heat, you can't really control, right, because the building isn't air conditioned.
Right.
But beyond that, I mean, what are some of the things that you think have been challenges this year that need to be kind of, or that you want to look at in the future?
Nothing that's up, I think all the staff have done a great job with the kids. Nothing that's jumping out to me that's like a major, major concern.
Okay, good. And then my second question would be, this is a question I ask kind of all the time when we have these conversations. What can we do to help? So what can the Recreation Committee do to help you?
I mean, I think there could be, and there's definitely an avenue to collaborate and figure out. I don't know off the top of my head, what resources, I'd have to learn more about what you guys actually are capable of contributing to. You know what I mean?
Sure.
We're literally just talking about what we'll do at our table at Groveland Day. I mean, certainly advertising the camp for next year would be something that seems like a no-brainer to kind of help get the word out.
Sure. No, that would be great. That'd be great.
Yeah, just, I mean, in terms of that, if there are things, we can certainly, we've got a few people absent tonight, but we could certainly kick some ideas around too. But if there's anything we can do to help, definitely don't hesitate to reach out. Even if it's just figuring out who the contact is for something in particular.
Right.
I mean, we have a fair bit of responsibility for things down at the Pines and some of the parks in town. So start thinking about field trips. If it was ever hey, we want to do a day at the Pines, right? That might be something.
Yeah, and that's probably what maybe we do slush down at the Pines or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
That type of stuff. So, that'd be great. And I think it would definitely be beneficial to everybody for us to collaborate, for sure.
Cool. All right, sorry, I didn't mean to monopolize the time, Pat and Michelle. I don't know if you guys have any other questions.
No, those are good questions. I guess one question that has been kind of on my mind throughout, because of just the nature of how this has all gone, and I know you've been thrown in, late in the year and all that good stuff. I understand that as well. Do you think that the per pupil price is right? Do you think they need to, bump up how much it costs to go, to go to camp? Because particularly, but obviously, I don't think the idea is to run this at a deficit. So, I mean,
For sure.
obviously, one, one way to change some of that is to, increase the cost a bit. And if that's what it costs, I mean, to make it run in the black, then, that's something that certainly we need to consider.
Sure, and I think that, I'm trying to, I think there is an answer to that. I think I need to figure out where we are at the end of the year with respect to, I don't want to be
No,
premature.
I'm not trying to,
Yeah, no,
hold you to anything.
I think
this
that,
is a topic.
I think that increasing the price is an option, but it should come with different offerings as well. So, if we're gonna be on site every day without field trips and without
So
I think we need to beef it up a little bit.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Are we kind of
No, go
close
ahead.
to working with what we got, or are we going over?
I would have to
Yeah,
talk to
you
Rebecca.
don't- I understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably close.
Okay,
It's probably, I mean, the staff is expensive.
sure.
So, I think if there were to be an increase in price, I think that needs to come with like a presentation about why we're upgrading the price.
Right. And,
You know
I
what I
mean,
mean?
Steve's point is totally valid about, there are probably some people on the fence or hanging out this session because they didn't know what was going on and whatnot. And, so
Sure.
you could be looking at, more students next summer as well,
Right.
just based on kind of the nature of how things are.
Sure,
Right.
for sure.
That's all I've got. On balance, all the things that I've heard, everything that I've seen with my own eyes, what I've heard from my daughter, what, I've, seen, just to pick up and drop off and all that, everything seems like, kids are happy and they're having fun. And so
Sure.
that is definitely, that's start.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the feedback for sure. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right,
Appreciate
guys.
you
All right.
coming
Well,
in.
thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate
Yeah,
your time.
thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me the time. Have a good night, guys.
All right. Take
You
good
too.
care.
Thanks, Joe. All right. Back to Groveland Day.
Yes.
All right. So where were we?
You were talking about trail maps. That seems
Yeah,
like a great.
trail
It
maps,
seems like a
maybe
great
some
idea. It's something that
surveys.
people might not know about, and
Right.
it's also something you can give to folks like at the booth, so they can take them with them. That seems like a smart idea.
Yeah, I think that was what I was thinking. The trail maps, maybe a sign-up sheet of some form for people that want to volunteer for trail cleanup in the spring, or want to be notified if we're going to do trail cleanup in the when we're going to do trail cleanup in the spring. Some sort of feedback form. But again, if there's other ideas, I think it would be good to discuss them. One concern I have is that Groveland Day isn't that far off, right? And so if we're gonna plan a survey and things of that nature, we may just need to try to sneak in an extra meeting or a meet a little bit earlier than we normally would, so we have a couple of weeks to figure all that out. I do think, I will say,
What's the day on it? What's the date?
It's September 7th, I
yeah,
believe.
September 7th.
It's I think the first Saturday of September.
Yep. So we would normally meet around the end of August. We might want to see if we can bump that up like a week or so if folks are around, and try for like sometime the week of the 19th or something.
Sure.
Just to give ourselves a little more time to plan. And maybe that particular meeting, if we don't have it.
I think he froze.
Oh, we lost you.
Rough day for internet today. The heat.
So I think we'll hold for a minute for Steve to see if we can get him back. Obviously, we can't proceed with 2 people.
Here he is.
Yeah, I don't know.
There you go.
There you are, you're back.
All right.
Yeah, it just kicked me out for some reason. That was weird. I was going to say, I think given that some of that stuff, you know, could be done online and we could just have a QR, like for like a survey and a sign-up sheet, if we had just a QR code and maybe a couple of, you know, things that people could physically fill out, I think, you know, that might be the easiest way to go versus handing out a ton of paper, notwithstanding the trail maps. So I think we could put something together relatively quickly in the digital format, right? That we could use at the table. And I think, you know, I have a feeling folks will have questions about, like, you know, some of the recreation-related CPC projects and things like that, which is fine.
Everyone wants to know about the splash pad.
Yeah.
Hot
Yeah.
topic.
The splash pad, the pickleball courts seem to be the things I get asked about the most. So I don't know if there's other ideas. I guess that would be the first thing that I would want to ask is, you know, if you guys have other ideas that you think we could leverage it, you know, during that day, that would be useful.
Well, I mean, honestly, we've got Pumpkin Fest coming up right after that. So if there's something that doesn't get done by Groveland Day, we have another opportunity to get our faces out there at Pumpkin Fest, which is also popular.
Yep.
Do we have a table at Pumpkin Fest?
I don't know that we do, but I bet we could get one if we wanted one.
Yeah, I guess we'll talk about Pumpkin Fest shortly, but I'm sure if there was something else that we wanted to solicit info at, we could do it there at least. Again, same idea, right? Maybe not a big table or anything like that, but we could certainly have some sort of flyer or something.
Or a QR code. I think that's a really good idea. Lots of people everyone will have their phone, and you can, you know, it's much easier to do it that way and then carry around a bunch of paper, like you said.
Right.
Well, I think so too, right? You know, we go to Groveland Day every year, and I know we're usually, you know, hands full with, you know, stuff that we've gotten at different tables and stuff like that. So my thought was just if we give people a way to, you know, access it digitally, that might be better, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I will need to work with, I just need to follow up with the Groveland Day committee. Sorry, is there any other, I guess, you know, are we good with kind of those things as the focus areas for our table at Groveland Day?
I think that sounds fine.
Yeah, I think my only other thought is any form of game or something really kind of maybe sparkly to draw people into our table, because I would have to assume our branding probably won't be there in terms of people knowing that we're the rec committee. So I feel like we need to have like a beanbag toss or some form of game that brings people in to actually come and talk to us. And then that's when we can kind of push out the trail maps and whatnot. So.
Yep. No, it's a great idea. And actually,
Who's got the town of Groveland cornhole boards?
I do not have the town of Groveland cornhole boards, but I have some very nondescript cornhole boards that we could use, just as a way to get people to come over. I was going to mention, you know, I have a pop-up like tent thing that we could use and a table. So I'm guessing we could put a sign. You know, I know a lot of the booths down there typically will have a sign on the top of who it is. I do not believe we have any type of official Groveland Recreation Committee signage, but we could make something, right? I mean, we could certainly have something. But I do think the idea of having a game or some way to engage people is good. I don't know that we have, and this is a question I'll need to ask the town administrator, I don't know that we have much of a budget. Like if we did a game, could we have some sort of like, you know, little prize to give to kids that came over and played or something like that? I don't know, but I'll find out.
Sure, that sounds good.
I think that's a great idea, and I know we had talked, actually, now that you mentioned it, we had talked about that at the last meeting. So I'm happy to leverage the cornhole boards that I have, unless somebody else has a different idea. That, you know, but that just came to mind for me, is something we could do that's easy and inexpensive.
Sure.
Yep.
We will, have to figure out, having somebody present at the booth for various portions throughout the day. I don't necessarily think we need to solve that right now. Obviously, there's two folks that aren't here tonight that might be able to assist with that too. I know Jason's typically there for a good portion of the day, and he spends some time at the town booth, but he may be able to join us for a little bit. I will be there most of the day. I know I'll have to I typically have to go to one thing. My daughter typically performs in something at Groveland Day, so I may have to sneak out for that for a little bit. But if folks have availability, even 45 minutes or a half hour or an hour where you can just hang around the booth or be in the area if someone came over to ask a question is super useful. But I think and I've seen it too as the day, as it gets later, we may just have the material there as it gets into the evening and like things are going on. I don't necessarily know that someone has to be standing there the whole time, right? But I guess that's just something we probably want to work out. If everyone's going to be there, maybe, just making sure we have somebody present at the booth.
Yeah, that's super important for a booth.
Cool. So I think, we can kind of talk about it when we talk about the next meeting. I think my goal would be that we try to meet sometime that whatever I said, the 19th or the 20th of August, and have that meeting solely focused on kind of figuring out everything for Groveland Day. I think it would be, we stuck with Wednesdays, it would be like the 21st. I know I don't know if I'm around that week, but I don't know, if everybody else is, so.
I can be available.
I'm
For the
available as well.
21st.
All right, so we'll shoot, we'll make that our next meeting and the kind of Groveland Day planning meeting. I think that'll give us enough time. That's still a couple weeks before the event, so we'll have enough time to sort everything out. Awesome. Anything else on Groveland Day?
I think that's good.
I'm good.
What's next on the agenda?
Pumpkin Fest.
Ah, yes. We went to the Pumpkin Fest meeting a couple of weeks ago. Michelle, do you want to talk to that maybe, since you're in the room and probably can be heard better than I can?
Yeah, absolutely. So on July 15th, we had a Pumpkin Fest committee meeting. Some really good attendance with the head of the electric department and the chief of fire, and I believe the chief of police as well too. We agreed upon a layout for where Pumpkin Fest is going to be taking place. So previous years, we've had it up right in front of Town Hall, that little grass area. They are going to be moving it down to the Pines this coming year, which will allow more space for activities and a lot less safety risks with hay rides and people trying to park. So they are continuing to work out the layout options for where everything's going to be placed. We've also considered with the pumpkins carving contests, how we're going to be displaying those. So there's discussions back and forth about having the pumpkins be dropped off up here and have some form of parade walk down with pumpkins to the Pumpkin Fest area, or just having it on the scaffolding and getting more proper lighting, because there is a lighting situation down there because there really isn't any lights. More lighting to display those pumpkins. The music is returning from last year, so there was a band that had 2 acts for a wife and daughter team. They'll be coming back. We'll be having pony rides and hay rides, as well as food trucks, and then some craft areas and some tables for public safety advertisements and whatnot. And then rounding out the day, we'll have a movie at the end. So somewhat comparable to last year, but just in a different location. I think that's pretty much it from the meeting that we had on the 15th.
Yeah, I think that about covers it. I mean, I think the only other thing, and we don't have specifics yet, is there, because of the fact that it's moving down to the Pines and the pumpkins maybe being dropped off up at Town Hall, just to make sure that they're kind of watched over before they move down to the Pines, is that they may need some volunteers that night to help kind of facilitate moving things around. We'll get more details on that, but there may be an opportunity to either help move pumpkins or be down if the scaffolding is where the pumpkins have typically been displayed is down at the Pines, maybe, for the short period of time before the event kicks off, just having somebody near there to make sure that, there's no issues or anything like that. So there may be an opportunity to help with some of that stuff, but no firm details on that yet. I don't recall at that meeting, if we said when the next meeting, if they said when the next meeting was going to be, but I'm sure we'll get more details when that next meeting happens.
Yeah, I believe it was sometime early September, if I recall.
Yeah, so nothing imminent on that, but more just that it's in the planning phases, and I think having gone pretty much every year that it's been done since I've lived here, it's a great event. I'm glad that it's being moved down to the Pines, because I think having it at Town Hall and just given the number of folks that come, it was definitely getting a little bit congested. I think we'll have a lot more space doing it down at the Pines, and just a better layout, and more options for Pumpkin Fest to continue to be a great event.
Well, that all sounds great. My first introduction to Groveland was by going to the last year's Pumpkin Fest, and it was a great time. Everybody loved it. So super fun.
It's one of my favorite events, if I'm being somewhat biased.
That should be good this year, for sure.
All right, what's next?
Looks like the next item on the agenda is Recreation Committee sponsored clinics and events.
Yeah, so I put this on. I had a note in my meeting notes from the last meeting that we kind of talked very briefly about talking about different events at the town, like different types of clinics or workshops that the town might be able to sponsor from a recreation point of view. I don't recall who brought that up at the time, but if there's interest in having a discussion around that, or if anyone has any ideas, happy to hear them, happy to talk through them.
It might have been me. And I mean, sort of a corollary to that idea is, I sit there and I think we have a lot of facilities in town that, generally stay pretty fallow, and that if we could potentially monetize some of them a little bit and bring a little bit of money into the town, and at the same time use the facilities we have, I think it would be pretty great. One thing that I was checking on there, there's all manner of ways to, get involved and whatnot, but one thing I was just looking at, there's an app that is called Catch Corner, and it's about finding open, like, basketball courts, right? And so you can pay $100 and get a full court for an hour, say. And I sit there and I think, well, what are we doing at Bagnell on, Tuesday night in a random part of the year, say? And I don't know, how it would all work and all that sort of stuff, but I do know that, I've run some co-ed leagues in the past, and, you can make some real money. If we did some softball or some basketball or some, some flag football or something like that, I think, one, people would like it. Two, it would use space that's otherwise not being used. So we'd have to make sure it didn't, conflict with, Pentucket's using it for this or whatever is going on, or, the Bagnell High School or the Bagnell basketball team doing whatever. But, it sounds like there's an opportunity here, if we could explore it, to make a little money for town and do something that is definitely right in our wheelhouse in the recreation committee.
Yeah, and I think it's a great idea, and I think about the basketball courts as an example, right, or softball fields, right? I know there was an effort last year to kind of take some of the permitting that we do and put it online. And I think, if I recall correctly, some of that included, or was the plan was that it would include, as things were reserved, like if, I don't know, softball was reserving the field every night, every Tuesday from 7 to 9 or something like that. That was then blocked out on a calendar of some sort. So it would be interesting to know if there was a way to kind of integrate that with the app, something like the app that you mentioned, so that if there were open spots, somebody could reserve it for, one night or something like that. It's an interesting thing. We probably have to explore that more with the town administrator just to understand how we could make it work. But I think it's a great idea. Unused space, unused facilities like that, if we could monetize some of that, I think it's great.
Well, and especially where there's literally zero cost to the town. If you, say, ran a league, the teams pay for their own referees or umpires. There's no, the only thing you have to do if it's indoors, you have to have someone let them in and, let it and close it up. And so, there's very little cost, and it's pretty much all revenue in a situation where, maybe the recreation board committee could get some money into the town.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. We'll just need to work through some of the logistics on it. So I think that's definitely something worth exploring further. And then, where that goes for me is, hey, maybe, I know early in the fall or sometime over the winter, somebody had reached out to me about, hey, I'm interested in running a basketball camp in town, right? Well, if we could facilitate them doing that by leveraging some of that unused space, whether it's a basketball court at the Pines or, wherever, if Bagnell was an option. I don't know if there's specific requirements for using that since it's inside the school facility. I'm not sure.
Which is why it's a great idea to talk to the town administrator about.
Yeah. But something like the basketball court at the Pines, like, hey, if it was like, oh, we're going to do a 1 hour basketball clinic on a Wednesday or something, and here's how you sign up, but we've got the space reserved. I think things like that are great. You know what I mean? I think there's ways to do that. One thing that came to mind for me, and I know this was kind of born out of the conversation we had with Mike Dempsey a few weeks ago, was, could we find a way to sponsor, right? And maybe they're free, maybe there's a cost associated with them, I don't know, but like certain trail walks or something like that on the trails as they're starting, some are obviously in better condition than others, but if we could sponsor that and facilitate that, whether it was something one of us kind of led, or if there was somebody in town that was familiar with a particular trail and they wanted to volunteer their time, those are other ways that we could, kind of start leveraging some of those resources that we have, right? One, to get people out and engaged in doing stuff, but two, if maybe it's a donation-based thing, right? We're going to run this trail walk on a Saturday. It's free, but you can make a donation. There's lots of different ways to handle that.
I think that's great. And that one thing that jogged to my brain was on the I don't know if it's the main trail, the one that goes over close to the Bagnell up to Main Street.
The community trail?
Yeah, the community trail. There are no garbage cans. So people are mad because people will take their dog waste and either not pick it up or chuck it. And obviously that's not a good solution. How prohibitively expensive would it be to have just a couple of trash receptacles, or waste receptacles so that people can deposit? So there's a place, you go, you have to take it with you. And some people just aren't willing to do that. And I think having a couple of trash bins probably wouldn't break the bank, or, if we're mowing the area over there anyway, what does it take for someone to grab a bag of trash and put a new bag in? Couldn't be super prohibitive.
Yeah, and I don't know I actually don't know that that's come up in discussion that I can remember, at least since the Recreation Committee has been involved with the community trail, so I think it's a good idea. I'm sure, part of the reason why, I'm guessing part of the reason why that didn't happen was because, hey, who's going to empty the bins, right? But I also think there's solutions to that, right? You don't necessarily have to put a barrel halfway down the trail. You could put it at the head end, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
true.
it's where Central Street is or where the parking lot is, just some way, or the parking that's kind of over by, closer down towards, is it Main Street? Even you could put something in one or two of those locations where somebody doesn't necessarily have to go walk, 15 minutes or 10 minutes down the trail to get to that barrel to empty it, right? If you put it in kind of more of those central locations, it might just be, hey, drive by, grab the bag, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's even something that could be, worked into what we're doing from I know there's a lot of work going on with the trash and recycling committee, right? Maybe that could be part of a new trash contract where if it's on, the route anyway, if it's centrally located on the route, if it's done off of School Street or something, closer to that location where they can pick it up from the regular route, that might be something that works, right? I think it's definitely something worth thinking about and kind of.
Well, especially if we're going to be trying to sponsor trail walks and things like that. I mean, you want to make it convenient for people to, use them in the way they're intended.
Right.
Well, and the thing is, I also think if people are walking on the community trail and there's trash everywhere, then it's not a good look, right?
Right.
And eventually people are going to be like, well, I don't want to use it. And then, I think that's not the right way I don't think that's the right way to hit it.
Sure.
So yeah, I think we should explore that a little bit further. Maybe I think the first step would be to find out if there's already kind of plans in the works to do that, right? We can definitely ask. And then maybe, if there aren't, then maybe we could ask if it would be possible to look into what the cost of doing something like that would be.
Sure.
Making a note.
Did you say that there was a specific, somebody was trying to use, to set up a clinic in the fall?
Yeah, he had reached out to me, I can't remember if it was last winter or fall. I'd have to go back and look at the email to see if it was possible to run a basketball camp at the Bagnell. And I'd have to go back and look at my notes and apologize. I usually remember this stuff, but it's slipping my mind right now. There was some reason why we couldn't make it happen at the time. I think it might have conflicted with something else. But it's something we could explore again in the future. I know he was interested in it, so.
Yeah, sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
But I think anything like that, right? That if we have people or organizations, and obviously, they fall within whatever criteria we need them to be able to run an event, run a clinic, run a workshop, run an event for us. And we can just help with getting the word out, right? Whether it's, a basketball clinic or someone who's going to do I don't know, yoga at the Pines or something like that, right? If there was things like that we could do or get people to want to run, then I think it's a great idea, right?
Yeah. I guess the real question is to find out what are the barriers to, somebody wanting to run a league or a clinic or, a special one-off event or like a yoga's on Saturday, whatever. But what are the barriers from the town, if any, or the school district, if any, so what stands in the way of us,
Yeah, what requirements do they have to meet, right, in order for us to be able to say, yep, we're, one, you can use the space, two, we'll help get the word out on it, right? And then, there's obviously a coordination aspect too, right? You don't want different groups or different organizations stepping on each other.
Sure.
And one thing I want to do on that front too is maybe look around and see, what some other towns are doing too, right? So I think, looking at some of because obviously a number of different towns, even just locally, have recreation committees. I want to take a look and see how they're handling some of that stuff. I know Georgetown does like a movie night, right? And I think their recreation committee sponsors some of that, right, in conjunction with business owners in town and stuff like that. But I think they play a role in that. So that's just one example, right, and not necessarily a clinic or a workshop. But I want to look into, and I'm certainly open to ideas on how we can replicate what some other towns that are successful in doing stuff like that are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So feel free, I'll do some research, but also feel free to do your own as well and see if you see anything that's interesting or that you think, hey, maybe you look at a recreation committee for another town, you're like, this is a great idea. I would say bring that type of stuff back and let's talk about it.
That sounds good.
Yep.
Awesome. What is next? That's all I have on that, unless anyone else has anything.
No, that's all good.
No, I'm good.
So on to project updates and discussion.
Yes.
Let's talk about the splash pad. It's first on the list.
I have no updates on a number of these projects tonight, but I do have one really important update as it pertains to CPC projects overall, and that is that on the Community Preservation Committee's page, off of the town page, there is now a link to the what's called the CPA project page, and on that page, right now it has the 2024 and the 2023 approved projects, and at least for the 2024 projects, you can go and click on any of them, say like the Shanahan Field parking lot, and it will give you some information, but there's also a latest updates section that will tell you key dates and things like that, right? Like I'm just looking at Shanahan Field right now, and it talks about how construction is going to start in spring of 2025. There's field survey work that was done earlier this month. There's a existing conditions plan that's going to be presented or somehow documented on the 9th of August. So there's a ton of information on there about the projects. And I would suggest to folks, it's a great place to look for information, because I know, I know we get asked a lot, right? Hey, what's going on with this project? What's going on with this project? I would definitely take some time to look at that and just familiarize yourself with some of what's going on. It's also a great resource to just get out there to the community as well. I don't know what, if any, plans the CPC has to disseminate that information, but I certainly think we're well within our ability to make sure folks know that page exists, right, and they can dig into projects. I will say I did take a look at some of the 2023 projects, like the splash pad and things like that, and it does look like some of those still need to be updated, but I'm guessing it's just, it's a relatively new page and they're still putting it together, right? So I'm guessing just, everything hasn't been updated yet, right? Somebody has to manually go in and enter all of that stuff, I'm sure. So there was that. And then in terms of other projects, I do not have updates on the splash pad or the skate park at this time. I know the last time we talked about the splash pad, there was just some logistics things that were being worked out around a sinkhole that had developed, and then figuring out some plumbing stuff, right? I think we talked about that at a previous meeting. Skate park, I do not have an update on. The Pines and Shanahan parking, those are on the CPC page. So I just talked a little bit about the Shanahan one, right? And the Pines one, there's additional information on there. But it looks like that is also slated to begin construction in spring of 2025. So hopefully we'll have that for things like Pumpkin Fest and Groveland Day next year, right? But the key dates in terms of, you know, survey work and conditions plan and construction bids and things like that, all of those dates are right on that CPC project page now, so. One thing that I do have an update on is the pickleball court. And I had planned to bring this with me, but since I'm at home tonight, I will just mention that there's been some discussion. I know the town administrator is working on this about the finished surface that's going on the pickleball court, right? So there was originally a plan to use, sounded like to use one kind of surface, but I guess there was some requests from some residents who are really interested in pickleball to look at potentially a different type of surface for the finish coat of the pickleball court. I'm not very well versed in pickleball, so I don't really know the difference between one or the other, but it sounded like the material that was being looked at, I think it was something called the original material that was being looked at, which I think was just some sort of finished asphalt, like painted asphalt or something like that. Maybe wasn't as ideal as like a modular tile type of surface. So I don't think any decisions have been made on that finished, kind of what that finished surface is going to be. I think the last update that I had was that we were just getting numbers, right, to understand what the cost difference was on one surface versus the other and see whether or not it would fit within the current budget, or if it was something where CPC would have to go back and request more money from town meeting. I don't know that those quotes have been finalized or if the town's received them back yet, but it sounds like that's where we're at with the CPC, with the pickleball court. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. Maybe, I don't know if anyone is more familiar with pickleball and understands the difference between like the traditional surface and a modular tile surface or anything like that. It's not really my my area of expertise.
Yeah, I can't say I do.
I would be pretending if I opined.
So again, I know the town administrator is looking into it just to figure out, you know, if there is a cost difference, and two, you know, what that cost difference is. I did have some questions that came up when I heard about this, which were more on the operational side, like the maintenance cost side, right? You know, is there benefits to one versus the other in terms of you know, how long they last, how much the upkeep is, you know, or is it a situation, you know, maybe where one comes with a better warranty than the other, right? You know, I don't know the answers to those yet, and I don't know that we as I don't know if the town has the answers to those yet, but I'm sure as soon as we get that information, we'll have an opportunity to discuss it, because I do think it's important just to factor in. Obviously, you know, we could have the best surface for playing pickleball, but if it's something that we need to replace every year because we live in the Northeast and it's going to get damaged by snow, well, I don't think that's a very good choice, right? But on the flip side, if, you know, a traditional asphalt surface requires a ton more maintenance and upkeep and things like that, well, maybe we do need to look at the other. I don't, you know, I think the jury's still out. We don't have enough information yet, but that's kind of where that particular project stands right now. Is we're trying to figure out what that final surface is going to be, and I think we'll have an opportunity to ask questions about that once we get once the town gets the quotes back.
Okay. Sounds good.
Any other questions on projects? We talked about. So I think the two that we really didn't have an update on were the skate park and the splash pad. I will make sure by the next time we meet we have more concrete updates on those. I haven't heard anything on the skate park in a while. That does not mean that there isn't probably a ton of work going on. I just haven't heard anything.
Sure.
All right, what else? Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
No,
Pat.
it's okay. I was just going to say, one thing that we haven't heard about in a bit is how the Bagnall Garden is going. So maybe at the next meeting, we can put that as an agenda item just to discuss where that is. I can check in with the proponent.
That would be great. I think it would be good to get an update on that. I'm not sure. I know they had a volunteer session probably, about a month ago or so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's, I haven't seen anything since then, but again, it doesn't mean there's not additional work going on. They may just not need as many volunteers at this point.
I think when I recalled is that the second session was to like clear a bunch of stuff away and kind of prepare it for putting in like new like seed and whatnot and loam or whatever to sort of get to have the site prepared by having it, all the sort of trash taken out. And I believe that they have like prepared the site. I don't know how much they've done to like add anything. And I think the planting wasn't supposed to happen until the fall anyway, because that's
Gotcha.
sort of the most advantageous time allegedly to do it.
Yeah, given that timing, it might be interesting to see too if they had any type of information that we could put at our table for Groveland Day.
Yeah.
If they're going to be doing planting in the fall, maybe that coincides with after Groveland Day, and we could, help them get volunteers and things like that. Although they seem to be doing a great job of getting people to help out. So, awesome. We can put that on the next agenda. Probably our next regular meeting, not the meeting the week of the 21st. I think that one will be primarily focused on Groveland Day.
Sounds good.
Okay.
What else is on the agenda?
Only items not reasonably anticipated at the time of posting, for which I have none.
I just have one on that front, and Pat, I just wanted to make sure you were able to get sworn in for the CPC.
I did.
Okay. I don't know, what their meeting schedule is yet.
I think they said September is when they were planning to get back involved.
Okay. Yeah, and along those lines too, I guess I had two. The other thing I wanted to mention was I know that Conservation did appoint a representative to Recreation. I know that came up at our last meeting. They did that a few weeks ago. I have to go back and figure out who that was, but I'll invite them in for our next meeting too, just to do introductions and kind of figure out, how we can work well together going forward.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds great.
Anything else?
No, I'm good.
So,
All right, with that, then I think we are we agreed that the next meeting is the 19th? Is that
it's
the right?
the
21st.
I'm sorry,
Twenty-
let me,
Yeah.
yeah, see. Okay. Right, August 21st, 7:30, with the primary focus of Groveland Day.
Yep.
And
That is the plan, and I will, if we get any updates on any of the splash pad, pickleball court, or skate park, I'll at least bring those updates to the next meeting, but the primary focus will be Groveland Day.
Sounds great. With that, I'll move to close the meeting at 8:36 PM.
I will second that.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
All right, have a good night.
All right, thank you very much.